Conan Chop Chop has finally released after quite a wait, and if you're watching this, you're probably wondering either what it's about, or if you should purchase it. Today I aim to answer that question: should you buy Conan Chop Chop? Firstly, the essentials. Conan Chop Chop is a character-based party action roguelite, available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC and Nintendo Switch for $19.99, or the equivalent in your region. The game is designed for between 1 and 4 players, and the game is made by Mighty Kingdom and published by Funcom. The game is designed to be played either online or through local co-op, though solo is still an option. I mostly play solo in almost every game I play, so this review is from a solo player's perspective. Story-wise, Conan Chop Chop is set in the world of Conan the Barbarian and takes a light-hearted approach to the source material. Thoth Amon, a Stygian wizard and recurring antagonist in the lore, resurrects the ancient wizard Zaltoten. Amon aims to lure the heroes of Hyboria to find an appropriate vessel for Zaltoten by creating a Wrathathon, a challenge designed to trap the heroes. Without saying too much else about the story, it's a great lightweight setup that leads into the gameplay and explains why you're there and what you're doing, without being too focused on story arcs and intricate quests. In terms of the technical aspects, Conan Chop Chop isn't too bad on that front. The game does lack in-depth graphical options, though it does support windowed borderless and 1080p with up to 144 frames per second if VSync is on and uncapped if VSync is off. Audio controls are simple but work perfectly fine, and the actual sound design of this game is pretty nice. You're advised when you load up into the game that it's designed to be played with a controller. All of the background footage you can see was captured on a keyboard and mouse. I own a controller, but KBM is just my preferred input method, and so far, it turns out pretty good. It's just as good as controller. It's very nice to see that even though the game is designed for controller, they've managed to make it feel just as good on keyboard and mouse. Back to graphics for a second, the game is reminiscent of similar top-down roguelikes in the genre, though the graphical style is impressively polished, and on my system with 16GB of RAM, an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X and a GTX 1060 6GB, I was pulling close to 300 FPS consistently. I'm not sure how well the game would perform on lower end systems or indeed laptops, but I think a lot of people could probably get this game to run at 60 FPS at least. In terms of the gameplay, it's pretty fun, even as someone that doesn't have much experience with roguelike titles. Combat is fun and engaging, with an easy early curve in the difficulty, but with plenty of room for player skill with learning how to parry, dashing, combinations and more. Playing through the tutorial, which does a decent job of teaching you the basics, Conan is the selected character. He's an agile brawler with proficiency at clearing gaps and putting out consistent damage. When I loaded into the actual game for the first time, I chose to play as Belit instead, who seems like a more agile hit-and-move style character with her inherent evasive dash counterattack, though the two definitely have some overlap, and it seems like the characters are not so locked into their role that they're not able to flex to others if necessary. There are currently a total of 4 available characters to play in the game. Those 4 are Conan, Belit, Palantides and Valeria. Each of these characters are very open to being changed and adapted to play however you like, and as you play, die and gain more experience, you'll be able to improve their stats and unlock new weapons which you can use on those characters. Conan is an agile brawler, Belit is a hit-and-move rogue, Palantides excels in burst damage and enemy displacement with his charge stun and slow but hard-hitting weapon swings, and Valeria is a sort of combination of Conan and Belit, able to dip in and out of fights and apply bleeds to enemies with her dashing slice. These are the general archetypes that these characters will fall into at the start of each run, but each character can be changed and modified in different ways with skill point unlocks, gear, charms and power-ups. This approach feels much more flexible for finding a playstyle you enjoy, and I think it's a pretty good way to add more variety to these characters and to their playstyles. So the game has a very simple core concept. Hit things close to you, shoot arrows at things a little further away, drop bombs on enemies for big damage, block or avoid incoming attacks, or, if you know the timing, parry them. Of course, the main objective is don't die. However, there is a lot more depth here and what seems to be a reasonably high skill ceiling. Range attacks can be rebounded with a parry to enemies that fired it, but any enemy in between will take the projectile hit. Each character also has combo attacks that you can access by working out a good attack rotation, using your weapons, your dash attack, your bow and your bomb. These combinations change based on a wide variety of things, including your weapon, armour, gear and charms, but they aid in raising the skill ceiling by allowing you to put out massive damage if you know your gear and your moveset well. In being a roguelike, the game expects you to die many times, and to be honest, you probably will. The ultimate aim of the game is to unlock the door to defeat Thoth Amon, but you also have to tackle other enemies, mini-bosses and regular bosses along the way. Even in the first area, the game isn't too afraid to throw some fairly tough challenges your way, challenges the tutorial doesn't really prepare you all that well for. Armed with only the basics, you'll have to take on attacks from 2 or 3 enemies at a time, which turns into 4 or 5 in the next room. You'll also have to deal with totems that buff your enemies, status effects from enemy attacks and more. When you finally reach the boss, you can expect a pretty tough fight there too. My first boss fight was against Thak, a gigantic ape. He's a tough, tanky boss with a large segmented health bar, each bar representing a different phase of the fight. With each phase, Thak gains new mechanics and modifications to his attacks, which provide a new challenge but also don't deviate too far away from what you've already learned. The progression of this fight walks a very fine line of difficulty, which is quite nice. Thak hits quite hard, but he's also quite clumsy, often stunning or exhausting himself after each of his attacks. This presents the perfect opportunity to attack him while he's recovering, but the arena is also crawling with enemies that will attack you as normal. This forces you to cut a fine balance of fighting the boss, while also dealing with his adds, making sure not to take too much damage from either. Now, I went into this fight with 1 piece of meat to heal myself with, and I also received 1 heart drop during the fight. In the end, after a near flawless third phase, I managed to kill Thak with half a heart left, equivalent to 2 hits. It was a pretty lengthy fight that challenges your ability to multitask and prioritise, along with tracking the attacks of multiple different types of enemies through reactive and proactive action. I really enjoyed this boss fight. It had a satisfying difficulty curve and felt really rewarding to complete, especially with such little health remaining. This fight probably looks horrendously busy, and it is, and the screen is often full of enemies doing their best to kill you, but the game's visual and audio language in communicating important information to you is exceptionally good. Enemies have an overhead pop-up above their heads when they're about to attack, ranged attacks have a clear sound to them so you know something is coming your way, big enemies build up to their attacks, your active parry window is extremely clear on your block, and even the little things like coin sounds when an enemy drops loot so you don't miss it. In a game as busy as this, having good visual and audio language is essential for making important things clear to the player, and Conan Chop Chop does a great job at that. The game might have a wonderful art style, but when you're fighting 10 enemies at once, you could care less about the trees and the ground. The game does a great job of only communicating what is important. So if this is all sounding good so far, you might be wondering how much gameplay you will actually get out of Conan Chop Chop. Replayability is a big buzzword. Most people aren't coming back again and again for collectibles and minor challenges, but I think Conan Chop Chop has a decent system that can encourage some replayability. I can't be certain about this because of course I haven't beat the game myself, but I think there is a lot of gameplay to be had here. The core structure of the game is quite simple, in that you clear 4 areas, kill their 4 respective bosses, and then you presumably defeat Zaltoten and Thoth Amon as the final bosses. However, the game does get increasingly more difficult, so as you die, you'll gain experience levels to upgrade your character, you'll use in-game coins to buy upgrades in the run, and you'll also be able to use your Steelfire, which drops from enemies in the environment, to unlock gear in your collection book, which allows that unlocked gear to spawn in the world. For example, you could use your Steelfire to unlock some better weapons and armour which can help you later in the game. Of course, if you die once, the run is done, so you can definitely get some replayability from the trial and error process of fighting and dying to bosses, and trying to complete the game in a single run. Of course, there is also some speedrun appeal here, which I could see coming to fruition in the future. There is some completionist content available in filling up your collection book and fully levelling up your characters, but ultimately, the replayability of the game comes down to if you enjoy the gameplay format and if you're a fan of roguelikes. The game knows what it wants to be and is locked into that genre. If you're already a big fan, it'll probably appeal to you greatly, but if you prefer other types of games like arcade shooters or mega open worlds, this is a title that might not offer much replayability to you after your first completion. The game is also fairly unforgiving of your mistakes, so if you're a kind of temperamental gamer, you could probably expect some rage quits down the line. So, in summary, should you buy Conan Chop Chop? The roguelite format may turn some people off, especially if you already know you're not a fan of the genre. However, if you are, I think you'll have a good time with this title. This game, like so many others, is likely much better with friends, but it also provides an interesting and entertaining challenge as a solo player. The price point of $20 is fairly reasonable for this title, I think, though if you catch this game on sale for less, that's even better. Conan Chop Chop is a fun, light-hearted action roguelite with a decent amount of replayability, great levels of polish, and a fun, involving gameplay loop. The game can be difficult and unforgiving, but rewarding in its challenge, and even as someone that hasn't really liked any roguelike games I've played before, pretty much the only criticism I have is that I wish there were more in-depth graphical options for lower end systems. Therefore, I am giving Conan Chop Chop an 8 out of 10. If you enjoy my content, all the links to my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Host Havoc affiliate page, NordVPN discount and NordPass discount are available in the description below. However, of course, you can simply just leave a like, a comment or subscribe. Any of those are very greatly appreciated. Patrons get a bunch of nice benefits, including sneak peeks of videos, your name in every video, custom made wallpapers in 1080p and 4K resolutions, full-size build blueprints, Discord roles and more. On that note, a massive thanks to our patrons Sadialot, Randar, Connor, Ivy, Torn, Ill-Fated, Coffeeman04, Marion Ladd, Alfric and Eagle Rose. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.